everyone. Welcome to this General Policy Committee meeting for the City of Gainesville. Glad to have you all with us this afternoon. We have, it looks like a very brief agenda. I promise you it is not. Madam Clerk.
Mr. Mayor, we have the adoption of the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to adopt the agenda as printed and distributed. I see no other lights. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that passed unanimously with Commissioner Engel absent.
All right, Mr. Mayor, we're on to the approval of the minutes with the recommendation that the the General Policy Committee approve the minutes from the October 23rd, 2025 meeting. And I would like to note that they have been updated. I noticed that there was an inclusion of an inadvertent provision in motion 3 of the Public Works item of the last meeting, and I have since corrected that and uploaded a new set of minutes.
Very good. Thank you. Commissioner Willets.
I move approval of the minutes, and then I have a comment.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to approve the minutes as printed and distributed. Is your comment about?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
I particularly just want to thank the clerk for catching, we had a citizen who caught the mistake and said, and that's exactly the way it should work. We now approve the minutes, so I just want to, my thanks to the clerk for working through that process and letting the citizen know that their edit was appreciated, and it was a very long that one item had like 5 motions. It was a long thing to get through, and that's when this happens sometimes, but this is the process. So thank the clerk and the citizen who brought that up. Thank you, Mr.
Very good. Thank you, Commissioner Willets. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that passed unanimously with Commissioner Engel absent. Madam Clerk.
Mr. Mayor, we're on to 2025-898 IT SLA update with the recommendation the General Policy Committee receive an update on the fiscal year 2026 IT service level agreement with Gainesville Regional Utilities.
Very good. Welcome, Mr. Nagy.
Thank you.
I think it's your first presentation for us, isn't it?
It is my first time,
All right.
other than a brief mention
Yes.
at a previous session. Mayor, Commissioners, Mr. City Manager, Ed Nagy, Technology Director. Brief update for you this afternoon on the ITSLA with GRU for IT services for fiscal year 2026. But before I jump into that, I did want to take an opportunity to introduce the new members of our new technology team here at the City of Gainesville. So I'm going to start by introducing some of our leaders. I said it's recently organized this way, but some of the team members you may have seen before or have actually worked with in the past. I'm going to start with Dave Duda. So Dave, I don't know if you want to stand up. There's Dave. So Dave's been with the city for 22 years, various different technology roles, leadership roles, provided support to the police department in the past for a number of years. Extensive background in technology, currently managing our enterprise resource planning or Workday team. So he moved over back in 2017 from GRU, I think it was, that he moved back into general government. So that's Dave, thank you.
Very good.
I'm welcoming him, but he's been here for 22 years, so it seems a little bit odd. Next, I'll start with Ricardo Chu. So Ricardo is also not completely unfamiliar to the city. We actually brought him over from GRU. He's been there for the past 5 years, fairly extensive, broad background in technology, a good bit of leadership experience, director roles in multiple organizations. He was the director of IT services at GRU. So with what we have in front of us, he's very familiar with the technology that we have to move over and then support. So very happy to have Ricardo as part of our team.
Very good.
Next, we have Paul Ackerman. So Paul is our information security officer. I had the pleasure of working with Paul for a number of years in a previous role, a previous organization. I can vouch for his expertise in IT infrastructure, operations, and especially information security management. So I'm looking forward to working with him to stand up our information security program here at the city.
Excellent. Thank you.
And last but definitely not least, we have Will Pintos. Will is our IT service desk manager. So he's going to be that front line of support for all the city employees, him and his team. He's actually joining us from the city of Ocala. So he's familiar with the area. He's familiar with city operations, has a decade of experience in that IT service management vertical. So
Wonderful.
welcome, Will.
Glad to have you all on board.
And the empty seat in the back is the infrastructure manager. That's the position that we have not yet filled, but we're interviewing for. And you might recall last year you had approved 3 engineer level positions. We're also recruiting to fill those hopefully within the first quarter or early second quarter. Any comments or questions for the team?
City lights? No, thank you.
Okay. I will go ahead and move into the update on the IT SLA then. So to start with a little bit of background, we've been receiving technology services from GRU since 2012. Throughout that period of time until current, there have been some changes. I did mention the ERP move, so that was previously part of the SLA. The SLA dollars were adjusted and that team moved over to general government back in 2017. Other than that change, up until 2024, I think things were going fairly well, but we saw a fairly significant price increase. Year over year from 23 to 24 was approximately a double. Then again, from 24 to 25, year over year, it was anticipated to be almost a double again, another 100% increase. So back in 2024, the leadership team that was on board at the time at the city saw the first increase, engaged with Barry Dunn. I know you're familiar with the assessment. They were basically looking at the costs. Did it make sense to stay with GRU or to consider another service provider or to bring technology in-house? And based on the team we have here, clearly we're bringing technology in-house here at the city of Gainesville. So with that said, we do have a good bit of systems that we need to migrate. And in order to really be able to make that migration, I felt like we needed to have a solid service level agreement in place with GRU. So almost, I'd say within weeks of starting back in May, I started to negotiate and collaborate with the leadership team at GRU. After a number of months, we were able to, land on an agreement. And we had that agreement fully executed on September 29th, so just before the start of the fiscal year. It is just a one-year agreement. There was some discussion about maybe being 2 years. We decided to stick with 1 year up front and then see how we progress with the transition. There is the possibility of creating a smaller, potentially SLA that moves into 2027, depending on how things go with the migration. A lot is included in the scope systems and services, so I wanted to just kind of talk through some of those a little bit. So managed hosting, all the servers, storage, databases, applications, these live in the GRU data center today. Microsoft 365, a number of different Microsoft applications in a hybrid environment. So some are in the cloud, some are on-premise. This is probably the most complicated piece of what we have to try and dissect and move. Network services, we've got 35 locations in the city, and we actually purchased the infrastructure in those locations, but GRU configures and manages that network. They provide desktop support, phone systems that we use, all of the security software and their security practice. So they do a little bit of risk assessments, vulnerability assessments, things of that nature. That's the program that Paul is going to stand up on the city side of things. And the last thing I'll mention is IT service desk. So when employees of the city have an issue with technology, they contact the service desk to get service or a service request if they need something new. They would make that request to that service desk. And that's the team that Will is going to be standing up on the city side of things. So a lot more dedicated support to the employees of the city going forward. The transition is in progress. And as I mentioned, we did leave the door open to potentially define more discreetly some services that might be longer running being provided from GRU to the city. In order to consider that, my preference is to really define them and be very transparent. So for example, a service could be a phone line that's $5 a month per line. Something simple like that would be favorable to the way we're calculating an SLA today. And see if you have any questions about that before I move into the dollars and cents slide.
Not just yet. Well, yes, we do. Commissioner Willets.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My only question is about the security kind of issues. The risk assessments, what I'm reading in the SLA, I'm just trying to understand how our auditor can, because risk is generally something our auditor does, how that kind of interaction can or will work in this newer sort of hybrid model as opposed to in the past. And I don't know if that's really a question for our auditor or if he's been in part of the conversations.
Yeah, I've already had initial discussions with our auditor organization, and I asked for a few months to let us get our kind of feet on the ground and to get things moving. But they were wanting to consider a future technology risk assessment on the city side. And I suggested, that sounds great, but everything is getting ready to change. And it might make sense to partner and maybe work on that side of the audit as we make those changes. But in the audit plan for this year, they do have the Workday application that's already moved. So that part of it is already a focus.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Go ahead.
All right, so this slide, I'm going to walk through. I think it's easiest to do it from the bottom up. Sorry if I cut you in the eye there, guys. So we were faced with a $5.9 million estimate for the fiscal 25 budget for the SLA. That was negotiated and was brought down to 5.4 million. It was still left unsigned, so the city didn't really agree to that amount. We ended up receiving the services, we're paying that bill or paid that bill, but that's where that $5.9 million came from. We negotiated this year 3.7 million for the SLA and the services that I mentioned and having that overlap. To walk this from the bottom up, internet services, we're going to pay for internet connectivity, whether we're independent or not. That's a very straightforward calculation. We're basically paying for half of the circuits and GRU's paying for the other half. Looking at Microsoft licensing, that's at the user level. There's 2,440 licenses. 1,400 of them are assigned to city employees. That's roughly 57%. So that's where we're paying that amount. And again, that will continue as we separate. We're going to have that portion of our enterprise agreement. It's important to remember that 57% though, because when you look at that top section with maintaining infrastructure and resource labor, to get to that 59 or 5.9 million, they applied that 57% metric from licensing to those other elements. So when we dug in a little bit deeper, that's where we realized with infrastructure, we're really only using about 35% of the infrastructure. So we made that adjustment. And then the biggest one is resource labor. In the previous calculation, it was 50 FTEs and we were paying 50%. Now it's down to 47 FTEs and we're paying 33%. So that's where that adjustment was made. So I think this is probably pretty close to as accurate as we can get it for the services we're receiving now. And again, it does position us to be able to make a transition and have a better relationship with GRU as we make those changes. And that's all I had for this afternoon.
Okay. Any questions at all? All right. Is there any public comment on this, Madam Clerk?
Mr. Mayor.
Okay. And we're, the recommendation is only to receive an update. We don't have to take a vote on anything. So, everybody sure you don't have any questions? Okay. Commissioner Eastman?
I don't have any questions. I'm just happy that we're here. I mean, we've had this back and forth about the ITSLA for so long, and what was equitable, what was not, what was a fair way to structure an IT relationship between these two entities. And I do think, and so I'm glad that you were able to come in and get this sorted out. And I'm happy that GRU was willing to come and sit down and say, okay, well, what actually makes sense? Let's treat ourselves like a business interacting with another, organization, and how are we going? Like, what actually makes sense as opposed to where we were about 2 years ago. And so I'm glad we're able to get to something. This seems equitable and reasonable based on what we got from the consultant externally. This seems like about the amount of money that we would be paying if we were, shipping this out. But we're working with GRU currently, and so it's this makes sense. And so I'm glad we're at a good place with this. And so thank you guys for all your hard work on it.
Thank you, Commissioner Eastman. Commissioner Chestnut?
I just want to say amazing. Great job, and you're saving us money already, so thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Chestnut. Commissioner Book?
That was short and sweet, Commissioner Chestnut. Thank you, Mr. Just a quick question, Director. So the 3.7 million and change that we have, that potentially will really realize some general revenue savings in our fiscal year 2026 budget, assuming we move forward and that's what we have. Is that
I'll
correct?
be careful about the word saving. So We budgeted 5.9 based on the previous forecast. The 3.7 creates about 2.2 that we would move into the transition dollars that we would need. We allocated 2 million already. We have that 2.2 million, and then we don't have the full amount yet from the rollover from previous year, but that's really going to be the start of the budget to get the transition going, recognizing that the transition year will not be less expensive. We are losing economy of scale, so some things may be priced differently when we come out on the other side. Obviously, we're going to be as fiscally responsible as we can moving forward with that, but those dollars are spoken for, if that's a short way to say it.
That's an excellent clarification. I did think they were spoken for, but in a different way than, and where they're going. They're going internally as opposed to
Yeah.
a different entity at the moment.
Yeah, that's going to go into all the software and technology that
Understood.
we have to bring on board and the services that go along with that.
Thank you. Echoing my colleagues, this is really good work. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, team. Thank you.
All right, yes, I'll echo that as well. I appreciate the work y'all have done so far, and that will be all the work that is on the horizon. I mean, I know it's not easy to essentially rebuild on our side of the house, but I think this is where it belongs. No matter what happens with GRU, I feel like IT services belong in general government. So,
Great.
all right. Thank you so much. Much appreciated.
Thank you
everybody.
very much. And since we have so much work to do, we're going to make our exit.
Gotcha. You don't want to stay for the comp plan? Madam Clerk.
Mr. Mayor, we're on to 2025-910 Imagine GNV Comprehensive Plan Update with the recommendation the General Policy Committee discuss the update of the comprehensive plan, Imagine GNV, and if necessary, provide guidance to staff on next steps to complete the comprehensive plan.
Very good, thank you. So before we roll into this, I'll pass over to the city manager and he'll introduce Mr. Edelton. But I know that there have been questions about, is this the only time that we're going to look at at this draft of the comprehensive plan? And the answer is, it might be the only time we look at this draft, but I imagine there will be other opportunities to look at another draft or so. My recommendation for that would be that we go over the whole thing today, not with a fine tooth comb, but we go over the overview of this draft, and that all of us with questions and concerns, put your questions and concerns together, meet with staff over the next month and a half or so, and then in January, let's have another conversation about this. And when I say all of us, I mean everybody in the community who might have questions and concerns as well. I don't want to have 18 meetings about this. We really don't have time to do that. I'm engaging in hyperbole. It will be 18 meetings. But I don't want to have a lot of meetings, but we do clearly need to work through questions in this draft. And I feel like, and y'all tell me if I'm wrong, an opportunity for the commission and the community to, if you have questions, list them out and meet with staff over the next month and a half or so, and we'll have another meeting where we go through this again and update those before this goes on to the plan board. Mr. Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think that was a pretty excellent introduction. I do want to kind of share that this is. I think personally, I think I've spent the last half decade working on this plan. So I'm very thankful for all of the staff that have brought it to this point. I'm thankful for the commission in terms of providing guidance to staff. I think the draft is very much moving in the right direction. I know there's some additional follow-up that both city staff are continuing to make to the draft before it reaches its final form and before we certainly transmit it to the state. I appreciate the interest in wanting to continue to discuss and as you indicate, Mr. Mayor, staff is absolutely available to meet and get into any of the details, answer any questions, and certainly talk through any issues going forward. I do think that the plan is in a really good shape, and most of, I think, what I would anticipate going forward would be largely sort of adding to what we have already as a basis. With that, I'll turn it over to Mr. Edelton to walk through the presentation.
Good. Welcome, Mr. Earl.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor, Commissioners, Forrest Edelton with the Department of Sustainable Development. As you all introduced very nicely for me, I'll be going over our current update. You've seen many updates to this so far, but our update to Imagine GNV, our proposal for Gainesville's comprehensive plan going forward. So again, I will keep this very brief. You all don't need me to go into detail about what a comprehensive plan is, but I feel like it is usually good to go over some of the basics for those that may be watching or unfamiliar. So our comprehensive plan is that plan that's required by the state that really touches virtually everything that the city does. Our decision making should be going through this comprehensive plan in roughly to speak. It's updated every 5 to 7 years, and it's intended to have both a 10-year planning time frame and a 20-year planning time frame. Typically, we talk about it in the 10-year time frames, and you'll see this last one was from 2010 to 2020. So, of course, meaning that it is time for an update. To do that, the process really is called the Evaluation and Appraisal Report. The last one that we sent in was 2019. So again, you can see that it's time for an update. That gave us another 7 years to start working on what this plan would be, and extended our next due date, if you will, for May 1st, 2026. So we've got roughly 6 months here before that comes up. Just to go about what really went into all the content of the plan, and again, I won't go into details because you have heard us go through it, but that this draft really is, as the manager pointed out, the culmination of 5 years of work and a host of engagement, community engagement across a variety of tools, times, places, community groups, and different commissions as well. Some of the most, I think, impressive and important ones are the listening sessions that were done and the Community in a Box initiative. There were programs where we really brought the public in to a lot of that process for the crafting, again, the content of this. And I think that that was really, really influential and informative for the ultimate product that we got to. So where did we get? You heard us go through the details of that content in our last meeting. We really have not changed the bulk of that content. It's a reformatting, which is really what this commission asked for us to do, to go back and make it look a little bit more traditional than what we had presented to you last time. So to put the motions here, and there were multiple motions, this first motion was to direct staff to come back with a comprehensive plan draft that aligns more in that standardized format. And I'll go over a little bit of what that looks like and means. And then there was a motion number 2, which was similar, and that was to direct staff to bring back the simplified comprehensive plan that takes the work done by Imagine GNV. So all of that community outreach, all the programs, and all of the efforts that went into that was still intended to be cooked into this version. And then also to bring back a solution that continues the equitable development framework and results-based accountability programs that you will also recall that we were going through between 2023 and 2024 largely as a part of the comprehensive plan. So what did that take, that ask to go back? It has been a while since we've been here and given you an update. To go and recraft this, it was really a multi-department effort, largely spearheaded by planner Nathaniel Chan, and really want to give a lot of credit and a shout out across the different departments. This touches, like I said, virtually everything that the city does. So as staff, it behooves us to have a very large working group to get those multiple perspectives and technical expertise. So this slide really should probably say, rather than kept the same format, it kept the same structure, that basic structure that we really wanted to do that made this more approachable to the average person. You all are familiar with the goals, objectives, policies of our traditional or our current comprehensive plan. It's not a document that typically, really pulls you in as a reader and wants you to really be a part of it. We're trying to still make this something that is approachable, so kept it in this chapter format and with a renamed chapters, still to have these chapters. You all asked for, how are these chapters going to line up with what is required by the state statutes? And so we do have, and this is included in the document itself, that crosswalk between what are our chapter names, what is a little bit more relatable, I guess, as if you're a neighbor reading this, but then where is that content and how does it translate over to what the state requires? And so that's what this chart will help you walk through. And this is to go over that new structure. So we really thought that it was important, again, to be able to draw an average person in, to talk about where are we, how did we get here? Why are we even talking about this in this document? What are the decisions that are associated with this? And so to do that, we actually go through, very similar to some of our agendas, starting off with a history. Here's why we are talking about this. Here's the way it's been talked about in the past, and here is what got us to these decisions and why we are making these goals. It also points out the progress to build on. So it shows that what we have been working on, some of the achievements that the city has made in the past, and what we're aiming to build on from there. And then, of course, what's at stake? Why are we talking about this? What decisions come through this? And what policy could be influenced by this in the future? So we do have it now with the goals, objectives, and policies. So that really is the part that's a lot more of that traditional format that you all really were asking for, I believe, the last time. So we came back with that, and it does make it that more typical way that you can reference these things now going forward as well. So if it is discussed at the commission level or neighbors have concerns, well, now they can point to those policies that have the associated number along with them. And so to go over the timeline and our next steps, just really brief for, again, how did we get here? Brief timeline. We started after that original EAR in 2019, engaging with a consultant and then engaging with the citizens and the community, starting in about January 2021. We moved through that broader process, which brought us to August 2023, where we were starting to discuss a rollout strategy. And then we shifted into this phase 4, as it's labeled here, where we really wanted to incorporate more of that equitable development framework, but also this results-based accountability framework. That the intent there was to draw more data-based decision-making. And I believe that we intend to, of course, still make that data-based decision-making. And then the phase 5 now is really where we got to today with that motion in September 2024, now taking us to today. So again, that next EAR is due May 1st, 2026, roughly 5 months from now. We would like to aim for beginning these adoption hearings at the beginning of next year, January, February. And then we will have the mandated state review of the content, and they have 30 days to respond back to us for that content. And then we can move forward with the final adoptions and the rollout strategy from there. Important for me to point out again, as the mayor pointed out, this is a document that is still in draft. It is still going to be worked on. There is some content that will be added to this. So there is still work to do. There is ways to go. So there is still several weeks, several months of staff effort and time that will need to go into this document to get it to where it can be comfortably at that first reading level. And of course, for this to have the good opportunity to listen to your all feedback and our neighbors and citizens as well. To the manager's point, you saw on one of the slides also that we did online engage with neighbors and citizens through a platform called Conveyo. And if that is something that is helpful going forward as well to collect this next round of feedback and input, then I'm sure that we're able to prop that up on our website again as well. And if there are any questions, I'm happy to answer them. And then I want to thank my chapter leads and department representatives here as well. If we get into the real nitty-gritty, I've got some technical experts behind me that can answer some of those.
I imagine we will have some of that. Thank you for this, and thank you to everyone, all the everyones, and there are a lot who have been involved in this over the last several years. I would like to, Madam Clerk and Mr. Manager, sort of point to the general policy meeting on January 22nd for a follow-up on this, if that's acceptable to folks. I would like us to kind of look in that direction. That gives us a couple of months to, including holidays, to work with staff to be able to get whatever the questions are answered and hopefully into the draft. Having said all that, let's air any concerns we have at this point. Okay, anybody? Commissioner Eastman?
Are we're only concerns, you say, Mr. Mayor? I think it's great. I'm glad we are at a good. I'm glad we're at a good point. I've spent the last few days really digging through our comprehensive plan, which is something that I hadn't I'm very excited to be here. I think in looking at other comprehensive plans, it's all right, Siri.
Siri had input.
This is a good opportunity for our city to kind of this is the one opportunity our city has to sort of take a step back outside of ordinances or procurement or just the kind of the day-to-day work that we do as a city and say, well, what is our kind of bigger vision and how do we want to be seen as a city? How do we view ourselves as a city? What are kind of the not like the in detailed policy decisions, though it does seem like in the older draft there was much more detailed policy prescriptions, while this new one seems to be more in line with more modern comp plans, which is more more vision and more overall thinking with and as we said, with the results-based accountability with the data on the back end. But I do think, I want an opportunity to dig into all this. We've been doing this for 4 or 5 years now. I could found old videos from 2021 where we were doing the Conversations in a Box, which was about 4.5 years ago those came out. So it was, and I do think that at this point I'm very excited to sort of dig into, how have we changed since 2013? What are the exact policy changes? Because this is not just a like a typical comprehensive plan update where we're saying, okay, well, here are our policies from 2013. We think that it's, this doesn't make any sense anymore. Here's a new policy that we think makes more sense. This is a total rewrite of our comprehensive plan. And it's something that I really would like to get some focus on. I'm fine, Mr. Mayor, with the idea that we are looking at this in January, but I would like for us to have some kind of a formalized process. I already have a number of little tweaks and changes that I think would be good to put in there that are more overall visioning type stuff. I don't think the plan with this, and Forrest, correct me if I'm wrong, you're the person to ask for this. I don't think a lot of times when we're updating comprehensive plans, when we talk about comprehensive plans in here, we're talking about pretty large changes to future land use, right? Like land use zoning, real on the ground stuff. Are there any real big material changes in our future land use for what you guys are bringing forward here?
The future land use is what you all see most often. That's
Right.
what you're typically going to see, meeting to meeting, day to day almost. Can you ask the question again?
Like big material changes. Like this isn't like a typical, like I was reading Austin's comp plan and it's looking at growth corridors and then they're changing the land use and they're changing the zoning of large swaths of the area, things like that. That is not what we're doing with this one, right?
Correct.
We're-
I see your question.
Yeah.
Yeah. There are not big material changes to what the plan is.
Right, so the future land use is roughly, with that section, which is really I'd say the meat of the comp plan. You're basically just trying to take what was in there from before, maybe making some, are there any real tweaks that you guys are?
Nothing major, not in the
Okay.
future land use.
Okay. I think that's probably fine. It means that a lot of the rest of Imagine GNV is much more of sort of a visioning document for where we're gonna go, unless we wanna make changes to like potable water section or something like that. But like a lot of it is just, how do we want our parks and recreation to look in 10 years? How do we want our conservation to look in 10 years? How do we want to talk about what being a tree city? How do we want to talk about our recreational facilities? And I'm very excited to do that. Can you go back? So, question: can we go back to the timeline? You mentioned So the one thing that I'm running up against, if it were me and I had a magic wand, I would say, well, we should just dig into each chapter of the comp plan. You mentioned you don't want 18 meetings. 18 meetings sounds awesome. I would love 18 meetings. I understand that's not, we got a lot of other things to work on in the city.
Schedule 18 meetings with staff.
I get it. I'm being a little facetious here. But May 1st, we're running up against the deadline of at least the EAR being due, which I think, I guess I would like to keep that as a deadline. Like that is where we need to go and not try to punt that out or try to do like what we've done in the past. But you mentioned the timeline of, I didn't realize this, we need 30 days of review and then 30 days of review. I mean, when do we need to have our final edits and staff's final edits and the plan board's final edits in there for state review so that we can actually get the approval by May 1st?
I would like to shoot for that March and April to be ready.
Okay. So we would need to have all of any changes that we would like to make or you would like to make in January and February. Well, probably January, so the plan board can review it at that point, and
Yes,
then
sir.
and then have that March or April, so that we have some wiggle room for a May 1st.
Exactly.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, we can jump into details if we want to. We can not. I have lots of questions, but I'll leave other commissioners to ask some questions. But thank you for everyone who's put in so many years of work on this. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Commissioner Eastman. So I'll say that we've taken kind of a bifurcated approach over the years and before I was on the commission, where the comp plan is the vision document, and then we have at least once, and one of the first big projects I worked on in 2017 here was the massive update, adopting a massive update to the land development code. So rather than rolling all of that into the comp plan, as some cities kind of do, we've split that apart traditionally. And this is the vision document, and then the nuts and bolts document is the land development code itself. And we've had some conversations that kind of lead toward the idea of some significant updates to the land development plan as we move forward, moving in parallel, but not with the same timelines as the comp plan. So just it's important to note that we've taken a different strategy than we used to take and that some cities take. Commissioner Willits.
Mr. Mayor. So as I'm understanding it, this is less the future land use, because we have some current big chunks like South Main, that conversation, which is something that is it's a process, but it is not intended to have that ready for the state by May. It might be ready by May, but not in this, application, communication to the state. Because those bigger chunks, and they still are part of the comp plan. So I think sometimes I expect, when we say vision, sometimes without the nuts and bolts, it's a little, most people, when they think of city planning, they want to know something much more like the South Main. Where are you going to roughly put stuff? Where are you going to, that is what urban planning or city planning is for them. So that's why it's a little hard to think this is that very, the vision. I appreciate all this stuff I've read through. It tells us a little bit about how we want to do our work, how we want to do public notification, how we, there's some big, broad goals that are here. I would like some ability to take some chunks of it, a couple chapters at a time or something, and particularly the plan board being able to get a couple chunks of it, because they really do sift through some stuff and identify, and they help all of us, particularly when they have good conversations that then we get to hear about or watch the video on. So I would like the plan board to definitely be able to get a couple chunks of this, because some of them are experts, some of them are planners, and just long time. Some of them remember the last time we made big updates. So I like the idea of it going to the plan board in some chunks between now and then. So particularly so that we don't so it's not a crunch time for us, and we haven't really heard from our partners who are supposed to be helping us and advise us on this. So that was one of my thoughts. And then I've got some of those individual kind of things that, that this is different from the previous one, which I will, I've started my list. So I think that's all I have for right now. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
All right. So if you don't want to go through some issues today, that's fine. I'd feel like having your own list, all of us having our own list, and working with staff to work through detail is probably more effective than the answers and the questions that would happen today, because having an opportunity to get it all on paper and then say, these are my actual concerns, and work through those one-on-one is more likely to get you where you want to go. But,
I think that's a good system.
okay, all right, thank you. Commissioner, or excuse me, Mr. Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was going to suggest that my office can be a conduit for commission comments. So you guys, as you're thinking about this in the next several months and meeting with staff, we can make sure that obviously staff is available to meet with you. And then as you're sort of crystallizing your suggestions or recommendations, you can send them to our office, and then we can just sort of be a repository for that leading up to the meeting in January.
All right, very good, thank you. Commissioner Duncan Walker.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you to staff. I do have a brief list, not a very extensive one, but a brief list that I will reserve for my meeting individually with staff. I do want to ask this question because I see on slide 8 of 17 where we have listed our multi-departmental efforts. We have our partner down University of Florida. Do we have, or have we engaged Santa Fe? How have we brought them to the table as a part of this process, if at all? And if not, is there a plan to bring them into the conversation? I know we're very, late in this process, but I think especially given some of our recent conversations and understanding of what some of their recent plans have been, it would be a very good idea to make sure that we don't leave them out of this. Have we, Forrest, engaged them at all? And if not, is there a way to pull them into this process?
Yes, my understanding is that we have, over the past few years, that we pulled in Santa Fe to get their technical advice and get their feedback for certainly how they see this for decisions that would be made here. I personally have not spoken with representatives from Santa Fe recently, and I'm certainly happy to, and probably already should have.
Are they considered a part of our multi-departmental effort?
I would say so, yes.
Okay. So the next time we see this presentation, we'll see them listed?
I would say so, yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Commissioner, just to respond, I think primarily Santa Fe, we've engaged them with the how we work section of the plan. That's the economic development since on the job training front. But we'll definitely provide an opportunity for Santa Fe to look at the entirety of the plan now that we have it completed.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. Thank you, staff.
Thank you, Commissioner Duncan Walker. Commissioner Willetts.
Mr. Mayor, I was thinking a little bit about if, Mr. Manager, if you were gonna, and I don't know if that's something my colleagues would like, so that your staff and Forest staff is getting, the same chapters kind of at the same time, and we're building towards, so that you can also, and I don't know about then when and how it is appropriate that it can be shared between us, because I know that whether that needs to happen in a meeting at some point, right? Whether we wait until the January 22nd meeting for some sort of communication so that we know what other commissioners are thinking about in the sunshine. So maybe some sort of a schedule of, so we can look at a couple chapters, and maybe I think that's I was expressing, and maybe Commissioner Eastman as well, like it's a lot, 10 chapters. So if we can focus a little bit, maybe have a little bit of a timeline, so that we're prepared, so that we can ask people in the community kind of, the chunks, as opposed to generically, because I know that I will even hear people in the community, and I have thoughts on chapter 1, but then they want to talk about chapter 8, and it's just kind of back and forth. So it's a thought. I don't know what my colleagues think about, if a little of that kind of guidelining would help us focus, and then so your staff also would be collecting it kind of in sync, I guess.
Yes.
It's an idea.
It makes it very, very orderly.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, what I would hazard a suggestion would be, depending on what you all think, I think if the commission could potentially get us your comments across, all the chapters, maybe before your winter recess, which would be December 12th. I think you all start that's the last day of your when you're in session, and then you go on a recess starting on the 13th. That would be I think a deadline that we could then use the rest of December to process everything that we received to commission and get ready for that January hearing date. If that's too tight, then you are excited to work on this during your winter recess.
Just one of us.
Just one of us, yeah.
1.5, I think.
I think the 19th would be another potential date of December that we could work with. We will need a little bit of time to be able to compile everything and review it as staff, and then come back with prepared for that January meeting. So that would be my suggestion. And I don't think necessarily we need to okay, commission, from this date to this date, you all need to review chapters 1 through 3. We can do that, give you a syllabus if would be helpful. But I think as long as we have everyone provide us the comments by mid-December, that'll give us enough time to be able to do what we need to do from the staff side.
Commissioner Eastman.
Yeah, I mean, that's fine. And I had multiple thoughts on how this could go. One of which was to have, if we wanted to have multiple meetings and go chapter by chapter, if it's the feeling of this commission that this is, that, you might have some ideas as things come forward, or you might want to hear, community input as things come forward. And then I'm happy to submit that over there. And it sounds like Commissioner Willits has some ideas. We can always we can always have sunshine meetings in which anyone can come. Like anyone from the public, anyone on the city commission can come. And we can hash things out. We can have a staff member there. It's almost like an informal subcommittee in a way. And that is something we could certainly do in December. That would make sense to me, just so, that we know what the left hand knows what the right hand is thinking, sort of thing. Then that is an orderly way to do it. I just, like I said, I want to make sure that really where the rubber meets the road is as government gets the feedback on the front end and they hear from folks and things get put together, that at some point that has to get, this is the time when you can actually get a feeling for where things were. I'm glad we put this into a normal format so I can look at, the old policies and say, how does this policy compare to that policy? This has been weakened, but that kind of makes sense because that was a big deal in 2013. It's not so big of a deal in 2025, right? It's so now is the time, I think, really that I'm getting the most amount of input and would like to have that. But if we would like to just do it where we're submitting everything by mid-December, and then we'd like to have some kind of sunshine meeting where anyone would like to kind of talk through the things that we're going through, I could certainly live with that. That'd be fun.
Okay. Thank you, Commissioner Eastman. Commissioner Book.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. So, Mr. Manager, I do like the process of having a deadline like you talked about, Commissioner Willits. And because what that allows us all to do is get with all the various networks we have and have them look at the things that are of most importance and give us the expertise and the feedback that we need for an informed document. And once we provide it to you, Director, and your office, you all have knowledge and expertise that we may not have of things that can be in there or may not be in there. The interesting thing about a comprehensive plan, even amongst us, we may have some slightly different views of how it aligns and whether it's visioning or objectives. But the reality is, it is the document that informs and guides and provides general policy for the way we build and grow and bring and build a vibrant city in many ways. And almost every other document we have, I think probably even the public may not understand, almost every other document and plan we have has to align within this document. And there's multiple state statutes and regulations and policies that will come up that it has to align with. And I know that I don't personally have that kind of knowledge to know if I'm providing feedback, if it fits in that, but your office will. So I do like that. And going through, I had some high-level statements there, Mr. Mayor, but I didn't know if we had any citizens that want to speak, and then I'll probably reserve those for after that.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Commissioner Book. Commissioner Willits.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Does the city plan board have a meeting before December 12th? I'm seeing one on December 18th, and I just can't quite see the one in November.
I think they don't have one in November. Probably.
I probably don't because I think it's that third week or so. And so the December 12th does not give the city plan board a time to meet and then for us to be advised by our city plan board before December 12th. And I don't know if it's something where we would want to ask the city plan board if they are willing to meet ahead of time. But I know that I don't even want to have a deadline for myself before the city plan board can meet and potentially communicate some issues, either as a group, the city plan board as a group, or individual members after they've had some chance to really focus in on this.
Mr. Manager, do you want to?
I had another point to make, but I think to your point, Commissioner Willits, we still, as far as integrating with the plan board, we still have to go through the regular legislative process, and the plan board will have multiple hearings, more than likely, and they'll ultimately produce a recommendation back to you all. So we can, if it's just a matter of making sure that the plan board sort of has a copy of the draft plan, we can certainly provide that to them, today, and they can have that so they can start looking through it. And if individual commissioners would like to meet, with individual plan board members to discuss, any issues or questions that they have, that's of course a non-issue. And so when was the December meeting first?
For plan board?
18th. Yeah. So
It's similar time.
Yeah.
Can the plan board call their own meeting ahead of time? Right, the chair can call it, I assume, if they want earlier or.
They could, yes. I mean, they occasionally will call special meetings for time sensitive things. They may have the same issues that we're talking about in terms of just timeline, be able to review the document, but certainly I just wanted to reiterate that we'll still be coming back next year with
Right.
And you all still have to have multiple hearings more than likely in the adoption, and because we'll transmit. The state will have 30 days to review. It'll come back for adoption. So you're still going to have multiple bites of the apple as well, even after we go through this part of the process. The other thing I was going to mention is perhaps one suggestion would be once the commission's sort of done with your all's review and we sort of consolidate everything that we've received from you, what we can do is to put that information in a relatively probably raw format as an attachment to what your regular meeting in January, the first regular meeting. So that way, since we can't transmit information between you all, that's a way that everyone can see what everyone else has submitted, and so to help you start to think about the meeting in January, about how to work together, how to see where there's alignment, and hopefully make that a more productive meeting when we come back to you in January on the 22nd.
Okay, I think it's getting closer to what I personally feel comfortable with. If we can make sure that we instruct the plan board about our rough plan, the December 12th, and kind of give them all the documents that are available, and tell them now, so that they know that they're not meeting for another 5 weeks or so, or I guess it's 4 weeks. But that in the meantime, we're going to be working on it and potentially getting. And so I think if we could lay that out for them so that they're invigorated, perhaps outside of their next meeting, to look at it, communicate, so I'm not blindly asking plan board members and they're like, what are you talking about? I haven't seen it yet.
Right.
So I think that would make me feel a little more comfortable.
Yeah.
So
Makes
thank you, Mr. Manager.
Thank you, Commissioner Willis. Thank you. Mr. Manager, did you want to add something else?
No.
All right, okay. Mr. Edelton, would you go to the timeline slide, please? There. So we want to have something we can call a final copy to send to the state in April. We have a general policy meeting on April 24th. That's probably cutting it a little tight. So let's say we want to have an adoption hearing on April 17th. And we can work backwards from that as a calendar. And if you all, manager's office, the Sustainable Development Office, if you can publish a draft schedule prior to next Thursday that we can adopt next Thursday as the schedule and treat it the way we treat the budget every year. You know, here is our schedule of meetings that lead us to a final adoption of the budget. We can do the same thing with this. And that includes every plan board opportunity and everything that is official. And within that, as Commissioner Eastman said, it is entirely possible to have sunshine meetings for one or more commissioners to have discussions with the public. Discussions with staff are certainly possible, all within a framework of what we've agreed will be the schedule, culminating with that 417 adoption hearing. Does that make sense? Okay. Commissioner Book, and then we'll go to the public.
Well, I'll wait. If you were going to go to the public, I can.
Okay, hit your button again so I don't forget you. Please, thank you. All right, Madam Clerk.
Mr. Mayor, Peggy Carr, followed by Kim Tanzer.
Welcome, Ms. Carr.
May I ask a couple of questions before the clock starts?
I'm going to treat you fairly
Okay.
here. I mean,
All right. Well, the first question is actually for Mr. Persons. Is the future land use map required as part of the comp plan submittal?
Yes,
Has that been developed? Has it been presented?
it's not changing.
It's not changing at all?
No, there's no, there are no map amendments contemplated with the comprehensive plan update.
Other than what have been amended by ordinance since the last?
Correct, right. Oh, yeah, other than like the regular ones that the commission considers
Okay.
periodically.
Very good. Then my second question is, where is the public in this timeline? I'm extremely concerned that all of the input that was provided is now over 4 years old. And a lot of it was done during COVID, and there was very little opportunity for community give and take. And while each of you is very knowledgeable, and your opinions and your ideas about this are really important, I think the public deserves to be involved in this process. And given the timeline that we're facing now, I think we're in a real jam. And I would like to suggest that you all consider writing economic opportunity and asking for an extension. And the reason that I think that extension would be justified is, one, again, most of the effort that was spent in gathering public input occurred during COVID, and that is old, and we need a chance to air it. And especially given now, and thank you so much for this modified format. It's so much better and so much easier to manage than it was previously. So we really appreciate that. But I think the public deserves the opportunity now to really engage and comment and give and take before this is finally forwarded. So one basis for the request for extension would be that COVID occurred. But the other, as I'm sure your sustainability staff is well aware, there's a lot of controversy over Senate Bill 180 and the degree to which comp plans can direct and control future growth. And I think that's going to get resolved in this legislative session. And until that's resolved, I think submitting this comp plan would be a little bit premature. So I wish you all would consider at least making the effort to extend it. I mean, and again, Commissioner Willis completely agreed. The plan board should have plenty of time to review this and comment and hear public comment. But I just think, 5 months is really a little bit unreasonable. Let me see, there was one other point I wanted to make. Again, this is so much better than before, but I also appreciate the fact that it continues to be user-friendly. I like the chapter titles. It's really now quite clear how the required elements fit within this different kind of format. So I think a lot of progress has been made, but I believe we really do need to have an opportunity to engage the public in this. Because as you've said, Mr. Mayor, This is such a critical document. It touches everything that you all do, and it is the time for the community to get together and define their vision for the future. So, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Jim Tanzer?
Ms. Tanzer?
Oh, wait until she's done.
Thank you, Commissioners. I'd like to echo what Professor Carr said about extending the timeline. Between now and the first of the year, it's unreasonable to ask people to dig into a document like this, you all or citizens. Until about a week ago, I hadn't heard that this was going to be up for review, and I'm pretty sure nobody else in the community knows. So there has been no time for community members even to be alerted about it. As you may know, if you've looked at this document and compared it to the last one was 60-something pages long. This is 202 pages, I think. And there are chapters in this that were not even in the previous document. So it's a lot more complicated going from that document to this document, even for those of us who have been following it. And I have to say, I find this kind of boring myself. It's not like it's exciting to me. I mean, the vision of the city is exciting, but the document is just necessary. It's what developers will use to make their case. It's what neighbors will use to argue with developers. It's the standard that you all will be held accountable informally and legally. It's really important, and it's important to get it right. I want to echo that the reformatting has been fantastic. I also want to point out that including indicators, which are data that you can test your success by, are important. What's still missing is data and analysis. There is no way for you to know how you're doing now so that you can tell in 5 years if you're doing better or worse. And that's going to take time to collect unless it just is still in some mysterious vault that we haven't seen. And just to give you a few examples, there's no indication of the number of housing units or the types of housing units or their locations in the document. So we don't know how much housing we have, how much we've added, of which types or where. One of the comments, and I just skimmed this morning, so I would have probably, 20 minutes of point-by-point discussion at least. But someone pointed out that there are neighborhoods on the east side that don't have sidewalks, and that is true. There are also neighborhoods on the west side that don't have sidewalks because almost no neighborhood in Gainesville except the Duck Pond and the Southeast Historic District do have sidewalks. But nobody knows that because that isn't in the data. So if you're going to add sidewalks, how are you going to do it? How are you going to know what you have now? And that's just one example. And then an even more basic one, in this draft, it says that our population's 132,000. And our population, as you all know, is 145,000. So there could be 3 errors like that per page times 200 pages, and nobody knows. I would like to, without having talked to the Board of Gainesville Neighborhood Voices, but I believe we would be willing to co-host like 3-chapter each meetings over a couple of weeks or months or whatever to give the public a chance to really talk through all of these things. Because as Peggy says, the citizens are not getting a chance to provide input. And sitting in the audience, what it sounds like is that the whole process, I hate to say it this way, but is occurring out of the sunshine. If it's just between commissioners and staff people, and there's no way for us to hear what does Commissioner so-and-so say about it, that's really, really not fair. And at least from my point of view, to hear what you all say to each other and to the community all in one place would be extremely helpful. And I just also would like to argue that everything that folks have concerns about have to do with how Gainesville is organized spatially, where there are jobs, where there are supermarkets, where there's such and such type of housing, and to think about it as a set of words that aren't linked to spaces is, it just doesn't reconcile with the way any of us think of Gainesville, not just professionals like myself, but anyone who went to those earlier visioning sessions. So I really hope you'll slow down. I hope you'll keep it spatial, even if the map isn't changing. I think still to see, and for everyone to see, oh, look at that, there are no bus lines here. Look at that, there are no sidewalks here. Look at that, there are more parks here than here. Those are important things to teach us all about. And as I say, I think we would be happy to help with that. And then finally, just as an individual, I would say that this is an incredibly ambitious plan. If you try to meet all of those indicators, you have a hardworking staff, but it's really, really ambitious. And so I hope you'll consider that too. Thank you, and thanks for the extra time.
All right, thank you.
That was our last
I-
speaker, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. I would point out that we are actually closer to 150,000 people at this point than we are even 146. Commissioner Testa, you wanted to?
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Manager, I'm looking at the community feedback sessions that we had previously with 500 participants at the listening session and then 50 at the conversation in a box. And I'm wondering if you could develop a schedule or something to come back and to show how we can have community engagement, citizen engagement in the process to get feedback. I like the idea of involving Gainesville Voices to assist in that process.
Mr. Mayor, we can certainly have staff attend, whether it's Ms. Carr and Ms. Tanzer's group, or any other community, advocacy groups that are out there. We can absolutely, if they want to reach out to our office, we can have staff, come to meeting and to be able to, answer questions and make sure everyone knows how to provide comments or, how to, what the schedule is going forward.
Okay, and then if you would give some thought to a consideration for trying to get a delay on submittal. If you want to think about that or see if that is something that we want to pursue, especially wait until the legislative session ends.
We always watch the legislative session, and year after year, typically there's growth management legislation that we monitor, and that we're going to periodically have to adjust for. I wouldn't recommend delaying the schedule for May. I would say that as the session continues, we'll just be aware of what's going on, and there may be a need to come back and amend certain things depending on what happens. My assumption for Senate Bill 180 was will probably be a lessening of the impact to it, since I think there are several jurisdictions that have gotten looped into having their comprehensive plans or other regulations held up because of Senate Bill 180. So I think the fix will be in a positive direction for most cities and counties with that regard. But we will certainly monitor. At this point, I don't recommend delaying it.
All right, well, certainly, let's monitor that.
Yes, absolutely.
Stay on top of it. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chestnut. Commissioner Book, and then I have some comments.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Something I neglected to say before, Director, is this is excellent progress. So that's a really good thing, and it resembles a document that probably most people who have the knowledge, the expertise, and the skills would go to, and they'd understand it in a much better way than it was before. And that's not because it wasn't innovative and unique, because it was. It's that this is, as we've talked about, it is a boring document. It's a bureaucratic document. And so it does inform the manner in which we can have to figure out all the specifics in the way that we grow, and the term was used spatially, but it is just the manner in which our community thrives, really is what it is. It is over 200 pages. One thing, Mr. Manager, I thought, at least for me, is I'm just going to give you, so there's all these tabs, and I'm going to provide it, and that becomes a public document right there. So where are the comments, and then you tell me, we can't do that, that's possible, no, that's illegal, and things like that, and that's how we get a good document. Mr. Mayor, you talked about a timeline and making sure the public's well aware of that, and I think that's an excellent idea. I wondered if we were going to put this document, or do we already have it publicly available in this draft form? Because that's the first and most critical way that people can get to it, because then we can direct people to it.
We have, I don't know, Mr. Edelton can respond to whether we have this version of it on our website, but we certainly can put it up there if we don't.
This version is not on our website currently.
But it is in backup.
Yes, it is in
No,
the
I
backup.
understand. It's really a small passionate group that typically goes to city commission backup to find a 200-page document. So the most important thing I think that we could do immediately is put that document up. That's public input, and people will comment and obviously provide us some information at the commission that we can take to meetings and homeowners associations and networks. So we'll bring that and say, do you know we have this document? And we'll probably get more input than we're wishing for. I'll say that, and that's a good thing. So if we could, that would be my suggestion. I don't think, Mr. Mayor, that requires a motion of any sort, do you?
Oh, no, and we've had the draft plans on the website, as Mr. Edelton indicated, on Conveo for the last 4 years, and so we can. I don't think I'm not sure if we're still using Conveo. I shouldn't speak, but we can definitely make sure that this version is online on the city's website, so folks can access it without going into the backup.
And using our public information arm, we put that it's now there, and that allows us to all leverage that. Just a couple of 30,000 foot level things as it relates to Imagine GNV is, for me, it would be like any time that someone prints out a document that has Imagine GNV, on that same page has got to say it's a comprehensive plan, because otherwise people will not know that Imagine GNV is the comprehensive plan. They'll have various ideas of what that is, but it won't tell them that informative document. So that's an example of something. Terminology will be real important, whether it says area or neighborhood or homeowner. Those terms mean a lot page by page, and I know you have the staff to figure out exactly what mean there, so that would be important. The timeline on the executive summary, I think, is actually missing a few things that you all have done, so I mean that in a good way. The executive summary that's posted in backup does talk largely about the COVID time and all the sessions then, but we did quite a few things in 2024. Not quite as robust, obviously, and so I would think the executive summary probably wants to be updated in a way that shows the additional work that your office has done. And I like, Mr. Manager, lastly, what you said is we do have to be following closely the legislative session, because every year, the last 3 years, there's been clearly comprehensive plan impacts to that, and we're going to have to be flexible with those things. So thank you for the work. Thank you for the work. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
And if I may, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Commissioner Buck. Go ahead.
Just to add that we do still have access to Conveo, and we are able to set that back up. And we were holding off on putting this draft onto our website just in case, to make sure we were on the right track with the commission here. So I think, of course, now we can get that stood up and available on our website virtually immediately.
Yeah, that makes sense. I did think of just one other thing, and that's just that where we have typically in a comprehensive plan, you may have some philosophical or ideological statements about where we're at, more visioning types of statements, and those are fine based on whatever guidance you get from the commission after receiving comments. And I thought that where those exist, where they talk about past trends, past resources, it will be helpful to identify the source of where we put that information. So we're not just saying it and we created it, but what's the source that led to that information? So those are just a few kind of big picture items. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Buck. So some of my thoughts on this. We will have, I'm guessing, 'cause we haven't seen the actual schedule we'll adopt, but just city commission hearings, public hearings from the city commission and the plan board, we're looking at 5 to 6 public meetings where we do this before there is, if we in fact stick to that April 17 deadline, which is 6 months from now. there is space in there for many community groups that are interested in doing it to hold a discussion or multiple discussions. Gainesville Neighborhood Voices, I'm sure Gainesville Ulster People will want to have one. There's opportunity for lots of groups to do that over a 6-month period. I know the holidays are busy, but we can't take 2 months of the year off the shelf. Most of the business world doesn't do that, and we can't do that. I believe there is time to fit this in. We fit in a budget process that is hundreds of millions of dollars in less than 6 months every year. We can do this. Does it involve everybody buckling up and making sure that we're actually doing it? Absolutely it does. But it is possible to do that. And it would absolutely be my preference to stick to this deadline. And we expect there will be some changes to what comes down from the state, certainly, during the legislative session. If it looks like those are going to be controversial, the governor may not sign, may or may not sign, whatever bill it is until after these deadlines, then we should absolutely be asking for extensions. But with the timelines, the external timelines that are available to us now, yes, we can do this. We can do this. And if we don't, if we stretch it out and say, well, we're going to take a year instead of 6 months, when we get to the 6-month mark, that's when the work will actually start. Because that's just how organizations work. That's how people are. We will say, we got a little reprieve, and we'll push it off for several months before we really get to it. My preference would be, let's stick with the timeline, the ultimate timeline we have, and come back next week with a calendar for when each of these things optimally would happen, and we can accept or not accept that. And then we can make changes within that, such as we see fit, and such as external pressures change on us. And I would absolutely encourage neighborhood groups and other civic groups hearing this, start putting stuff on a calendar. And commissioners, myself, and parts of our team, members of our team, will certainly be able and willing to go out and be a part of those community conversations. I'm sure there will be sunshine meetings here in the building, and those are always noticed. But there should absolutely be community groups talking about the final versions of this as we move the draft down the road. Those are my thoughts on it. Anybody have any further thoughts on it? I don't have any lights right now. Mr. Attorney, does this all sound very legal to you? Okay. All right. Okay. So we'll get a timeline next week, and we can vote on that. But today, I don't think we need a motion. Okay. All right. One last call. No lights. Okay. Madam Clerk.
Mr. Mayor, we're on to member comment.
Okay. Commissioner Deckelbaum.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Wanted to say thank you to staff and members of the community yesterday who participated in the community walkthrough. I know that a few of you had the opportunity to go over into the Fifth Avenue neighborhood and take a tour, talk to some of the residents. When I went out, I had the opportunity to take 6 staff, and I want to thank our interim city manager for helping to coordinate that effort and bringing staff out, because I think it was quite beneficial that we may have seen some things and had the opportunity to consider some things and certainly hear some voices that we had not been able to hear from before. I know that in walking, I learned that concerns of at least 2 of the individuals who came out to express their concerns last Thursday, they saw that the changes or proposed changes to a particular area were not going to directly impact one of the homes, but they did show us reasons that we need to definitely have a conversation around the public school, around the nursery and other businesses in the area who will be directly impacted. And we have not had a chance to hear about those impacts. So I wanted to definitely, once again, thank staff for coming out. Like I said, it was about 6 of them who came, and I really, really appreciate your time and your input. They had a chance to hear from some of our neighbors as well with at least some initial concerns. It's my understanding that we have a community meeting that has been arranged for December 2nd, is it, Mr. Persons?
That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah, at the Santa Fe Bond Center. I believe, Brian, do you know what time it is? What time? 5:30.
5:30,
Yep.
December 2nd?
That's correct. And it'll be an informational session. We'll have all the materials, all the designs there for the public to attend, be able to ask questions to staff from both transportation and public works, and to get a better understanding of the process, the timeline, everything along those lines. And then I believe that we'll also be having a follow-up discussion of the project next week on the regular city commission meeting as well.
Next week on the regular city commission meeting is when we're scheduled to talk about this. Excellent, that sounds good. Well, now the only thing I would say is if we're talking about this next week, that is before that big community meeting. Mr. Mayor, I don't know what our agenda looked like for the 4th. Had you given any consideration for it for the 4th? Were we full on the 4th? The only reason I'm asking about that is because that would be an opportunity for us to hear from the public at that December 2nd, then have that meeting on the 4th.
So I want us to be entirely clear-eyed about the fact that we voted on this a couple of years ago. We did vote to do this, and money has been spent. Not insignificant money has been spent at this point. We did outreach prior to that, but we have what I'm learning to call bulldozer syndrome. When we start to feel the rumble of bulldozers, the meetings we didn't go to become important. I was out there on Wednesday or Tuesday and did my walkthrough with folks. There are concerns to be heard, and I think staff has heard those concerns. This is ARPA money. The clock is ticking on it. We certainly can make decisions to hear it whenever the majority of the commission wants to hear it. I think we need to stick to a timeline.
I'd like to propose that December 4th meeting to hear those concerns, because at least we'd be able to allow the community to be able to, some of them feel as though they were not brought to the table in a way that they could participate in this. Once again, I mean, it's the piece that we hear quite often, that we all know that we want to try to do a little bit better in terms of our notification process. So I'm concerned that I want to make sure that we do hear from those community members, and if it is not a problem, and if we're not too full and we can hear this on the December 4th meeting, I'd like for us to do that.
Happy to move it from next week to the 4th. Mr. Manager?
That's certainly fine in terms of moving the agenda. I do want to say that we do have a construction manager on board. They are ordering materials. We're moving forward. So I just want to make sure that that the commission is fully kind of understands that there's always opportunities for more engagement and more input, and certainly more information sharing. But if on the 4th the commission decides, okay, we're not going to do this project, that would be a significant change for staff, both in terms of money that we spent, and obviously because this is in part an ARPA funded project, we would have to reallocate funding to another Vision Zero project, and I don't believe that we have a Vision Zero project that's sort of ready to go. So there are implications if we were not to move forward with this, but understanding that I think the community wants an opportunity to be able to provide direct feedback to you, so we have no problem with that, of course.
So let me offer this as well. this is a multi-block, multi-mile
That's correct.
project. It starts, what is the south end of the project? What's
I believe it's Depot on the south side, and then all the way up to 8th Avenue.
All right, this is a 15-block project. We could encourage our construction management to hopefully start at the south end, so that the last block is a little more flexible, which still costs money, but is more flexible. Mr. Singleton, thoughts?
Brian Singleton, Interim Chief Operating Officer. So the project limits is from Southwest 8th Avenue to Northwest 8th Avenue. We have asked the construction manager not to start work until after the information session, so we don't plan to break ground until, December at the earliest, probably after the first of the year. We can work with them on where they start, but like Mr. Manager said, subcontracts have been signed, materials have been ordered, materials are on the way.
So let's move to the 4th, but I have, as a challenge to myself, need to be more careful that when we vote to spend money, we have voted to spend money. And it costs us public money to not follow through on that at that point. Once we have a vote, we've had a vote. And we've had a couple of votes on this that started the spending process moving forward. But we can have a final meeting on this on December 4th and not have it on the 20th.
Thank you very much for that too, Mr. Mayor. And since I brought it up in this course of the conversation, I'd like to also just bring back the idea of how when we do public engagement that we certainly try to take some different types of steps, because a huge part of this concern is always either I didn't get the notice or frankly I didn't read the notice. And I don't think that always falls to the public, because to be honest with you, how people receive information is important. How you receive it is important. If you're receiving bulk mail, then sometimes you might just throw it out with those coupons that you don't necessarily need. So I think how people receive information, how we ensure that they've received the information, that whole process is really, really important. And I'm hoping that we as we can relate to staff that let's do some research and some intel on how our communities best receive the information. Because it's one thing for us to say, we sent it to you, but it's a completely different thing for folks to really understand what's going on. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, for moving that to the 4th. Thank you, Mr. Singleton, for ensuring that staff will start at the other end of the road, giving at least the individuals, the portion of the community that has expressed concern, the opportunity to have a meeting, hear from us, and then the commission be able to come back around on this. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Becker Walker. Commissioner Williams.
Not me.
Oh, that's me.
It was, okay. You were lit up, but I just unlit you. So, okay, sorry. Commissioner Book.
Actually, wait.
Okay.
Something completely different. That's why I've forgotten my
Well, mine is on this.
Yeah, I'll go later then.
Mine too.
Push your button again, Commissioner Willis. We'll get back around to you. Commissioner Book.
Funny we bring up the one-way pairs. I found it was immensely informative, so thanks for scheduling that and coordinating at that and going. Sometimes we make decisions 2 and 3 years ago, and that's what this is. And trends change, and traffic engineering data changes. And there is actually some traffic engineering data that talks about one-way pairs that probably I'm digging in myself to learn that may change thinking. And this is the same thing for all multimodal transportation. And we were just talking about the spring legislative session, and there will be laws that come up that change, that we have to change. We have to be adaptive to those changes. And this could be one of those conversations. So I am mindful that we committed money and we have a project, but information has certainly changed for me. And I don't know where we land on that, but certainly driving the area and knowing that it's an ARPA-funded project and recognizing that traffic engineering data has changed related to that, could inform my decision-making also. And certainly a neighborhood or an area or a community, whether we got out the information or doesn't, but who starts to come together and coalesce and then says, wait a second, and here's why, we owe it to them to listen to them. And so I know we're up against time deadlines, and I know we committed, but it'd be equally fiscally irresponsible to move forward with something that we then, and spend additional monies that you know, maybe has some changes in project scope or data, or maybe it doesn't. So I'm in favor of it moving, and I recognize we're at the end of the ARPA cycle. But so I do want us to hear it and allow that session to go forward. And then we discuss it, and whatever happens, happens at that time. So thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Book. Commissioner Chestnut.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So this current commission that is seated, we're the ones that voted on this. Is it this commission that voted?
I don't remember what
Yeah.
it was.
Did this commission that is seated, did we vote on this project?
The design and planning started in 2022. So it continued on that process. It has been on your Vision Zero ARPA update each quarter. And then the construction agreement was approved in the second meeting in September.
Okay. All right, there is a disconnect somewhere between how citizens get information, how the community is informed. And so very often, it is how something is written. You may think that you're writing something that is easily understood and that the people who are receiving it know what you're talking about, and they don't. I've just been amazed this year at so many things that are coming forward that I was not aware that we had voted on and had approved. So I must have bulldozer syndrome too. But we're going to have to pay a little bit better attention. But this commission did not vote on this issue.
Well, we did vote on the construction manager 2 months ago. That was whatever September date that was, which is what started this whole conversation.
Yeah, we voted on the bulldozer.
Yeah.
We're going to have to start paying better attention.
So, and Commissioner Chestnut, I think part of what we're looking at is being victims of our own success, moving projects forward. And when we get to the part where we start the actual building, where it's imminent, that's when change happens, and change is hard. And that's when it becomes real, is when we vote to hire the construction manager, and those last stages then become a thing. And we're going to have more of that because we are doing more building. What we have coming before us for the next year, projects that we've talked about for a long time, 8th and Waldo is a great example. When we start actually doing those final stages and the details of each one, there's going to be a lot of contracts that come forward. And I'll promise you, some of the things that we do with 8th and Waldo that we, in concept, are very much looking forward to, when it is time to take down a building that is next to somebody's neighborhood, that's going to scare people. And those are the kinds of things that we see now. When we talked, you know, at the ARPA updates about the one-way pairs happening, we can make good arguments about why this should happen and why those were chosen and all that sort of thing, but they're not real until they're real. And that is a very different conversation for us and for the neighborhood that is affected than it was in concept. The concept always sounds great, but when it's time to actually do it, that's scary. And understandably so. I'm not saying that those are not real fears and real concerns, because once you roll the bulldozers out, there's no going back. So I understand, you know, exactly why we have these concerns, and they're very real. But I'm saying buckle down, because there's a whole bunch more of that coming as we build things. As we make things real, there are going to be lots of last minute concerns. That is what we've signed up for here. So be prepared, I guess is what I'm saying. Commissioner Willits.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. For something completely different, before I forget it, now I remember. I just wanted to thank PRCA staff, Roxy Gonzalez, your staff, particularly Karen Press, for organizing all the volunteers for Evergreen Cemetery to put out the American flags on veterans' graves. It was a lot of volunteers out there. So many scouts. Commissioner Book was out there, and John Alexander was out there, and Phil Mann, and lots of other city staff. But it was just so many scouts, and looked like some sororities and fraternities as well. It was a lot of volunteers. We always had that many volunteers to help with different tasks around the city. There would never be any litter on the ground. There'd be no invasive plants. It would be amazing. So they built it up over the years, and so Karen Press really deserves my appreciation. She has my appreciation, and she deserves all of our appreciation for a great event. And it really means a lot to the families of veterans, both recently deceased and going back the decades. And I got to put a flag on the Turlington of UF and Florida legislature, fame, and the city's fame. So that was interesting. It's always a fun, historic kind of thing to do, to go out there. So, but thank you, Roxy, and to your staff. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Commissioner Willets. Mr. Manager.
And I thank you for the recognition, Commissioner Willets. I heard you all breeze through your first batch of flags, came back for a second batch. So I did want to just briefly mention, I think, to some of the discussion, and I think to the mayor's point, I think we've recognized that from a staff level, that transportation projects or infrastructure projects, they take a long time, especially from inception to outreach, to design, to finally construction. There are, I think, a number of examples just, this past year, I think, as to Commissioner Chestnut's point, that have emphasized the need from a staff perspective, whether it's the sidewalk of Poe Falls or it's the reconfiguration of 8th Avenue, that there needs to be additional sort of information being put out as we get closer to construction, even if this project may have been on the LRTP for 100 million years and it's been talked about from at the commission dais, multiple times, or MTPO. I think staff understands that, and we're baking those things more into these projects. Northeast 9th Street is another big project that's going to affect a lot of people. You all have talked about it. It's presented here. We've had a bunch of outreach, engagement, but the city is dynamic. People come, people go. Somebody may not have gotten word. So, before we move into construction on that, there needs to be another round of notification to folks. So I think we're trying to be more mindful of that as we've had a couple of examples where it's a good reminder that for us, it seems like yesterday when we started planning this, but for residents, sometimes it's the first they've heard about it. So we'll continue to make sure that we keep that up going forward. But as the mayor said, we have a lot of construction projects, as you all know, whether they're road projects or building projects, and so we'll have a lot of opportunities probably to have this conversation again and again and again. But we will, from a staff perspective, we'll do our best to make sure that we're sending out notifications, especially if it's a project that's been long in planning and finally getting to a place where it's going to start construction.
Thank you.
Right. Thank you, Mr. Manager. Thanks, everyone, for your time and attention. And we have lots and lots ahead of us over the next few months. All right. We are adjourned.